We have seen how to create a Django application. We just installed a Django Python package in a virtual environment called my env. Here, my Django env we created, and then we did install the pip install Django. We did, and then we have added a start project with my project as the example. Then we created a application inside it called home. So whenever we add application, we will also need to add the application to the installed apps section here that we have seen. And we created a simple view called home view. If we go to views, we have created a home view and an authorized view. So this is for authorized users, which requires login. For login, we have actually created the super user through manage.py create super user command, and we have made a template here for welcome page and for authorized page, and we are using that template here. And we can pass parameters through this dictionary, and these values can be utilized in template with this syntax. And then we have seen model view template architecture, which is nothing but views will represent how the data will be displayed in the UI, and models will define how the database structure is populated. Then we have seen the admin interface. So if you go to /admin, you can log in with your super user credentials. And before that, we did migrate. So there is something called make migrations and migrate. Migrate actually does. So if we go to settings, these are the default apps that will be installed along with Django. Admin is an app. For admin app, we will have to do some migrations. This will have some set of objects and tables created in the database. For creating those tables, we need to do migrate Python manage.py migrate. So this command does create all the tables required for all the installed apps. So we will have our own tables for home, and we will have one more application created for storing some set of nodes. For that, we will create models also in this class. So apart from that, we have authorized views. This is how we specify the login URL. Now is the time to create model view control templates, model view templates. So there are other frameworks where model view controller architecture is present, and especially in Django, we have, instead of controllers, we have templates. So model view and templates. I'll go in depth into what's the difference between model view controller and what model view template in a later class. Right now, let's go with creating a new application. So this one, I'm using home application just for uh, pages that do not require any models. And I'm going to use a separate app for actually having models and adding to the database all the entries in database. So for me to create a app inside this my project, I need to first go into my project folder and then Django admin start app notes. We create predefined set of files and then adds the directory inside my project. So it has created nodes. Similar to home project, we have views, models, admin. So first thing that we need to do as soon as we add the app is to let my project know that there is a new app called nodes. This will set the configuration in the project. The project now will be aware of the nodes application. So in simple terms, I want to store nodes, let's say some title, some kind of text. I want to store it in database. Maybe it can be a task manager applications for storing the tasks that I need to do. I'll just go simply add one class here. For storing objects in database, we have to define the models. Let's go define a model called nodes. So all the classes defined in models is going to be models class nodes. The way we have to implement it is through descending from models dot model object. So how the inheritance works, I will just explain in a bit. So according to Python syntax, if we are specifying a class here, this class will inherit from this class, which means all the functionality that by default is provided from this class will come into this class. So we will go in depth into classes, how to define classes later. So if you want to take a look at how to define classes, you can go through the online resources, Google search on how to define a class and basic details of Python. So if you need more in-depth knowledge, I will teach you once I get in depth into this code. So I've just defined a class called nodes that inherits from models.model. From this package, there is a class called model. So all the model functionality will be implemented in this. And we just need to import that and use it. So first thing I will need to define is what are the fields I need in that object, nodes object. I'll say title. So we have to define the type of the field also. The name of the field is title and type of the field I'm going to use character field. So there are predefined field types in Django we can use. Character field specifies it's a string of a specific length. So character field, it's like the database query varchar. So in database, there is data types called varchar, integer, boolean, all that. Similarly, to define in Django, we have a specific set of classes that define these data types. So this title is going to be a string. That means model start character field. And I have to specify the max length for this field. For any character field, we should specify what is the max length of the characters. So max length is 100 I'm defining. This means the title of this node cannot go beyond 100 characters. Let me give it as 200. Now the character field cannot go beyond 200 characters in length. After that, I want to have a text description of the node. I can define this as text field. And this does not need any maximum length. The text field can have any number of characters. I don't have to restrict the number of characters. And apart from this, I also want when was the node created and so on. Created field. I'm going to use models dot date field, date time field I'll use. And there is one utility functionality with datetime field. I can automatically fill this datetime without me requiring to add this field every time. auto created. So now add equals true. If I use this argument, so whenever I save this model, it will automatically create a new date out of current timestamp. What's the current date and time? Based on that, it will automatically create this field. So I don't have to add it every time. So this way we are defining a table will have these three parameters. This notes table will have these columns: title, text, and created. Now, next we can tell Django to actually create these tables. Before doing that, we need to prepare the schema for this nodes table. So we don't have to do it manually. Django by default gives a functionality to create these SQL queries that are needed based on the database that we have configured. It will auto generate these SQL queries and gives us the output. Let's go see how to do that. So Python, start Python, make migrations. This command will actually generate the migrations. Migrations nothing are nothing but the SQL queries that need to be performed in order to create this table and columns in the database. It will generate the SQL files. So if we go see this migrations initial.py, so the database collections to creating the table, all those things will be done by this code. So there is a create model utility function that will allow to create database collection, database table, and all these fields along with it. So now I have a migrations file. I also need to perform migrate, apply these migrations into the database. So for doing the migration, I need to do manage.py migrate. It's like we saw for admin app. Similarly, for our app, as we defined a new model, first step is to generate the migrations through this, make migrations, and then migrate it. Make migrations will do create the script to actually write the SQL to the database. So migrate will actually execute the SQL and create the tables in the database. Let's execute this, and it's applied the migration. So now our database tables are ready for nodes collection. So let's say if I want to go to the admin interface and see what is there in the admin interface, I can just run manage.py, run server. I go to this link. To slash admin. Admin. If I see here, it's still not adding that nodes in this. I can't add nodes here yet. For me to add nodes also as part of this admin interface, I need to do a small tweak in the code. Let's go to that now. We have to go to nodes, admin.py. I need to add the admin functionality here. Let's just add class nodes admin admin.model admin. So admin has the default functionality to add this to the admin interface. I'm going to just extend that functionality. I'm just going to do nothing. Then I will register this Notes app to the admin interface. For that, I need to do admin.sites.register. I need to pass in the model name also. For that, I need to import the model from dot import models dot notes. And what is the admin interface going to be is what we are going to pass it here. So for this model, use this notes admin interface. We haven't done any custom modifications to notes admin. We are actually getting default model admin functionality from the default library from Django and using that. Let's go site.register. Let's go to this URL. Now back to the admin interface. Let's refresh. And we see that now. Notes. Now I can go add these nodes in the admin interface. We are going to implement a separate UI for adding nodes, but before we can get to that level, we can actually have this interface. I can add nodes. So by default, it gives us the title and text. So what we defined in the model, title as 200 characters and text as a text area. This has given that my first Django nodes. This is my first. Save it. And after saving, so this is the list view. If I go to users, username, email, all these fields are displaying. If I go to nodes, the nodes, it is giving only the object, meaning so I want to display the title of the nodes rather than this object. How do I do that? Is through modifying our class, admin class. So default functionality of this nodes admin or model admin is to display the object. So it doesn't specify which fields to display and all that. So for modifying that, I need to add one parameter here, list display equal to a tuple of what all fields I want to display. Title. Just want to display title. Is a tuple, so I need to actually give a comma here. So if I'm declaring as a tuple should at least have two entities in it. So that's why I have to declare it this way. This actually means the first entity is title and next entity is none. So let's display accepts a tuple or an array. So let's say I will just do array. That will be more simpler. I can have this as an array. So what all fields you want to display will be specified in this array. Let's go to our admin interface and see what's the change. Refresh. Now it shows the title. Good so far. So there is one more functionality of Django. Now we are using the admin interface to add these nodes, right? We can also use a shell interface also. So how do I go into the Django shell is what we will see next. I'll go to my code. I'll close this, stop the server. Now I'm going to log into the shell of Django. So Python manage that line shell. We'll enter the Django shell. Whatever environment we can use, whatever packages we can use in this code, we can actually use those in this terminal also. Let's go see how to create a new node from the shell itself. For that, I would need to import from nodes dot node nodes dot modules import nodes. Then I will create a new node called my node equals nodes dot objects dot get. So this is what we are doing to get the existing node. So I'm actually getting the existing node. We have saved one node from the admin interface that I'm trying to retrieve through this command. So by default, nodes models will have a data object called objects that will allow us to query the database. So all operations we'll do on the nodes objects is through this object. So let's go get the object by ID 1. So there is something called primary key in databases. So primary key specifies what is the ID of that specific entity that we are storing. So primary key will be starting with automatic incrementing with starting with 1. So every time we add a new entry, it will increment the primary key of that and add that. So when we first added the nodes from the admin interface, it would have added the primary key as 1. So this means I'm trying to get the first entry in the data in the nodes table. So let's go get it and let me print my node. It's an object. It's object. So let's go print my node dot title. This is the title. Let's go text. This is the text of that. So now I've got I'm able to read the first entry in the table. So what about getting all the entries in the table? So I can do it to nodes dot objects dot all. This will give all the entities that are stored in the database in this particular table, nodes table. So this will give us a query set, which is an abstraction on top of the list items. And similarly, if I want to filter some entities which have specific set of fields, let's do that way also. So nodes dot objects, instead of all, I'm going to use filter. I'm going to filter for the nodes which have a word called my, or that starts with my test nodes. So I have given my first Django nodes as the title, right? Let me filter the ones that have my in the beginning. So filter. So what field I'm going to filter for is title. And what is the condition that I'm going to filter for is contains. So the condition and the field name will be separated by 2 underscores. So this is a default functionality of Django. We can refer to the documentation to find out what all conditions are allowed in the filter. So for now, I'll just use title, the field name, and then I contains. I contains means this text contains, and I is ignore case sensitivity. So whether it is starting with small m or capital M, it doesn't matter. So it will always filter by that, ignoring the case, it will filter. So before I condense, I'll just go with starts with. Starts with is another filter that we can use. Let's use slash equals my. This specifies to the Django or ORM that filter all the time, all the nodes objects that have my as a starting word. So let's go execute this and it gives me one. Let's go do something else. If there is something like you, but we don't have that list of items which have you as a starting word. So let's try to filter that and see. So query set is giving empty. So because we don't have any entities that are starting with you, we have one entity starting with my. Similarly, similarly, I will just use contains, title contains, or I contains means ignore case, contains Django in it. Enter. We have one node which has Django in it. So my first Django nodes, this is there. Let's go see if anything else. Test. If the title has the test in it, it will display. If not, it will give an empty array. You can see here, it's an empty one. And then we can have, apart from filter, we also have something called exclude. So for that exclude, let's go at nodes, objects, exclude. So this will exclude the items that satisfy the condition that I'm going to put here. Text I contains equals Django. It will filter out all the nodes which have Django as a text in it, in the title or in the text. I can use title also. Title has Django. It's returning empty. Exclude means don't get those entities. And let's go see text. So in our text, we don't have Django word. So this is my first note is the text. That is what it is excluding. Meaning if it has Django, it will exclude that. If it's not having Django, it will include that in the response. This is how we do filter operations in database through our model. So we can also pipe our filters. Let's say, what if I want to do filter by one condition and exclude by another condition? For that, I can do nodes.objects dot filter title I contains Django and then dot exclude text I contains Django. This will first filter for all the items that have Django in the title and exclude all the items that have Django in the text area, text field. Let's do that. And it gave me one. This is how you pipe filters and excludes. Now that we have seen how to operate this in the shell, we'll go back to our model and we'll add one functionality for adding the likes to the nodes. Just like for posts, we can Okay. Just like we have likes for the posts in Instagram or YouTube, we want to add likes to the notes also. Let's do that. So in models.py, I'm just adding likes as a field. For this, I can either use models start integer field. Integer field will store numbers from large numbers. So there is one more smaller field called positive small integer field, which we won't need it right now. So I'm just going to use it as integer field. Um, the integer field, this also accepts the default value for this fields. So for every video or for every nodes, I might want to initialize this likes as zero likes. So default value I can specify in this default equals 0. If I say this, even if I don't add anything to the likes, it will add 0 by default and save it in the DB whenever I save this nodes model. So for adding this likes to this model, whenever we edit the model's interface, we have to generate the migrations and do the migrations to do the update queries to the database. The database schema now has only title, text, and created because we have done the migrations already. Now I've added a new field called likes, so I need to generate the migrations and migrate to the apply the migrations again. So for that, let's go to manage.py, make migrations. See, this has generated a new migration at this location. Nodes, migrations, second migration. This was the initial migration. This is the second migration that only adds the likes. If we go to here, what this is doing is adding the field called link likes to the model nodes as an integer field and with the default as 0. So these things we don't need to worry about. Just for the understanding purpose I'm showing. So now I've added likes and we have generated the migrations, and now it's time to apply the migrations. Manage.py migrate. This applies this migration and adds this column to the database table. So database is currently SQLite I'm using. So by default it's SQLite. We can either use MySQL or MongoDB also. How to configure MongoDB and other things I will show you in some time. Going forward, next I want to do a list interface for the nodes. So far I have been using the admin interface for manipulating this data, but I need a interface in my UI, so my custom user interface. For that, I will have to add the views. For adding the views, I will go to views and create a new view called list view, def list, which accepts request as a parameter. And I want to get all the nodes of this nodes.objects.all. So this nodes is not known to this file. So for that, I need to import the nodes. Import from dot tools import nodes. Now I have nodes, all the nodes I'm getting. Now I have to render a template. So I'm going to create a template later. Right now, I'll just return render request, the template name node slash nodes list .html. I'm going to pass in this parameter nodes as nodes, all nodes. So this template I haven't implemented yet. So for that, let's go to nodes, create a new folder called templates. Again, a folder called nodes. This is the convention. It should have same name as the app. Let's go add a file called nodes list.html. Let's go add a HTML text and nodes. Here there is some tricky thing going on here. So as we are passing nodes here, I want to do a loop through the nodes and display all the nodes in each of the list items. I want to create an H1 item that says these are my nodes. I want to create a list item, unordered list, and then for each item I want to add task one, nodes one, nodes two, and so on. So for doing this, I need to do a for loop. So in Python, let's if I go to Python, so there is a for loop. Let's say I have a nodes here, A, B, C, D. This is a list. I can actually iterate through this nodes with for node and nodes, print node. This is the Python way of doing it. So the same syntax, we can use it inside this template also. How do I use the syntax is like this. You open one bracket, put two percentage symbols, and do one thing here. For note in notes. We don't have to add colon here because this is a different syntax. This one is Django template language. So we also need to, earlier in Python, we don't have to close this for loop. As long as the indentation is correctly aligned, it will automatically determine the for loop where it ends. But whereas here, I need to specify where the for loop ends. And for that, I need to define it like this, end for. This says that between this line and this line is what my Python code lives. So this one will iterate through all the nodes. Each item will have a node as the value. So I'm going to wrap this up inside this UL element. And each of the list items I'm going to put inside this item. See this. And instead of nodes one, I'm going to use the title from nodes. This variable will have the object. So for actually using the node, if I want to use a value, I need to use two brackets. If I want to execute Python code, I need to use it in this way. You have any doubts, Shruti?
Sir, UL అంటే ఏంటి సార్?
Unordered list. It's a list item. So will go into like how the HTML works. You can actually go through W3 schools and just to brush up on the HTML skills. But I'll teach you HTML also. UL means unordered list. It's a list of items is what it means.
ఓకే సార్.
So inside the li, I'm going to use note dot title. So li means list item, ul means unordered list, h1 means heading 1. Let's go. Before we run this, we need to actually add this path to URLs. Now we have defined the view, but Django application does not know that I have to use this view for some path. So I haven't defined the path yet. So just like we did for home, there is something called URLs here. So in this similar fashion, we need to add the URLs to Nodes app also. So far, we haven't done that. Let's go add that paths in the notes app. urls.py from Django.urls import path URL patterns. I'm going to use path. So for that, I'm going to use nodes. I'm going to use node slash list, and I'm going to use the view from dot views from dot import views. There are two ways. So you can just import only the list function, or you can import the entire views into this. So views I'm importing entirely because I want to use multiple lines of. If I add more functions, I want to use that in the URLs. So I'll just use views dot list. So this is one way to use it. If not, I can just say views import list. I can just use it as directly like this. This is another way to use it. Let's do it the other way. Views dot list. And this accepts a parameter, or like I can give a name to this. Basically, what I'm trying to do here. Okay, for now this should be enough. Let's go add this to the global settings so that global project URLs, so that it knows that there is something called nodes URLs also. I go to my project URLs, just like we added this home URLs, we also want to add nodes URLs. So I'll just use nodes URLs. Let me start it. And it's not going from server. Put this. Now it shows three paths. One is home, one is authorized, one is nodes. I'll go to nodes now. Nodes is not found. Second, let me check this. Yeah, because it's nodes list, not nodes. Actually, I defined the path as nodes slash list, right? In the view, I have specified nodes slash list. Not match any of these. Admin, home, authorized, nodes. Start logins, just okay, I have forgot to add the slash pattern here. Okay, let me correct that. So I'll show you what we did from. So in this code, I have used nodes slash list in the URLs. Whereas in project URLs, I've used nodes. So basically this appends to this URL. So whatever is specified here will be an append of the previous URL. So I need to remove nodes from here. I just need to use list there. And in projects, I can use nodes slash. whichever path starts with nodes slash will go to nodes URLs. Inside the nodes URLs, it will search for what's the next item. Let's go check this out. Now it's coming. I'll refresh and show you. If you see this, now we have nodes path. Let's go to nodes and then we can see what are inside the nodes. There is something called list. I'll have to use nodes list. Now we can see the nodes coming here. So nodes list we have done. And now we want to show detail view also. When I click on this nodes, I want to see what this nodes is all about, all the text and everything. Let's do that now. I'll define one more view called details. In the views, nodes views, yeah, detail. It accepts one parameter request. And for getting a specific detail of a specific item, I need to also determine what is the value, the ID of that particular node. For that, I will need the primary key also. So I'm going to pass this primary key from the URL so that I can find that entry from the database and use it. So I need to find the node by the primary key pk nodes.objects dot get key equals to key, and I will render this template request, and I'll use nodes slash nodes detail HTML. I'm going to pass node as node. So I need to define this nodes detail template also. Inside templates, I'll just create a new nodes detail.html, fill the details, nodes details. I'm going to use h1 for title, dot title. Use paragraph for text. Now I'll add the URL also for details. Same thing, just that we will change the detail. And here we actually need to specify the foreign key, primary key, sorry. If I go see here, which details do I want to display is required, as we are accepting primary key from the view template, and we have to use pass this from the URL. So that URL, we will have to define it like this. What's the type of the key and what is the key PK? So what this specifies is when I access details slash some number, it will go to details view and then pass that number as PK here. So for that, I need to change the view to details. Here we can specify what is the parameter type and what's the value name of the parameter that we want to pass. I can show you in demonstration how this works. So let's go to this URL. This one you can see right now.
Yes, sir.
So if I go to 8,000. There is something called notes slash list. If I go to the list view, it will give all the list of all the tasks. If I go to the details slash one, it will give me the first note item. First note, what is the title and what's the text message? Yes. What if I go to, let's say, 11? That thing does not exist, right? But let's see what happens if I access it now. It throws an error. Notes matching query does not exist. This is actually failing inside the code. So we need to handle this also as part of our code. So let's do that handle now. So if the entry does not exist, we should throw out an error called 404 not found. For that, I will have to use 404 from a library called URL HTTP library, Django HTTP library. Let's handle that now. Use import from Django.http, import HTTP 404. So we need to use this if the note is not found. What we will do is we will do a try and catch block. Try to get the notes except this is standard uh, Python syntax. So I will get an exception called node start does not exist. If you see the error message in the browser, I'll show you. This actually says that does not exist. Exception type does not exist. This exception is what we are handling in our code. So let's go see render. Nodes does not exist. We are handling. And we need to raise an error called 404. Raise means it will raise an exception to the front end. That is HTTP 404. We can give the message as no doesn't exist. And if this exception did not happen, this line gets executed. Otherwise, it will break out of this statement. Let's go now and see how that reacts now. So to access something that does not exist, it should give me page not found. This is not throwing any exception, but it is raising the 404 page not found error. Next thing what we will do is we'll create class-based views. So right now we have seen how to define views within this views.py as functions. So there is, for this, basically we will have to write the entire code ourselves. So there is a way to optimize this code in the long run. So there are some functionalities that we can share between views. For that, if we use class-based views, that will be more less burdensome, and with less code we can achieve more. For that, let's have that implementation. So Django has a template called template view. From Django views generic, I'm going to import template view. So instead of using this list function, detail function, I can actually use template view for displaying these pages. It's simple as, okay, let's first go and implement this in home views, then we will start implementing in notes views. Let's go to home views. Let's import template view, and this home view I'm going to import, convert that into a class-based view. I'll just name it as home view. It will inherit from template view. I just need to pass one thing, template name equals the same name that we have here. And then we need to pass this extra parameters. There is a keyword called extra context. We'll use that for storing or passing this particular argument. As of now, this doesn't give any advantage as of now, but it gives in the future if we are extending the functionality home-based nested views. This class will be used as a parent class. All the functionality that we want to put as a common functionality, we will put in home view, and descendants will automatically get that functionality. But now we don't need this home view as a function. I'm commenting out this. So I'll use home view class instead. So let's go to the URLs and home view. I'm going to use it as home view dot as view. That's all we need to do for changing the view. This is a function. You should call it as a function as view. Similarly, let's go to this page and see if anything changes. Because we converted into class-based view, we need to verify if things are working as expected. Slash home, it's given correctly, no change in the functionality. And I'm going to change authorized view also now to use the template. So this authorized view also, I'm going to define a class called authorized view. That will also take from template view, inherit from template view. Same thing, template name as home authorized. And for this login URL, I need to use login URL here. This is all standardized. If we see the template view documentation, these fields will be already there. So this is using existing functionality from Django. So these ones, we can refer to the documentation and find out what fields to add where. So I can just comment out this part. Then same thing, I will go change it in the views URLs, authorized dot as view. Now I'm going to go to this URL. I'm going to use authorized as the path. You're in restricted area. So this is correctly displaying. So let's go to admin and log out. If it is logged in, log out. Let's go see if that page is now coming or not authorized. Let's come in. Basically, we need to redirect to the login page. So for us to get into that, we need additional functionality in the class-based views. There is something called mixins in class-based views. Let's go to views. As we have used login required, this functionality will be provided by a mixin called login required mixin. Let's import that from Django or country.org.mixin import login required mixin. So I need to import from login required mixin. I need to extend this class to inherit both from login required mixin as well as template view. This will get this login required mixin, use the login URL and redirect this if the token is not found. If the user is not authorized, it will redirect to this URL. This is the important part. Let's go back to our browser and let's refresh. Authorized as it is logged out, it's redirecting to admin login page. I'll just do login and then now I'll go to authorized. Now it shows the page. So same thing we have achieved with the class-based views. We will see more in depth about class-based views and we will convert all the nodes list items also as part of this. So we have converted home page into class-based views. Similarly, we can change the nodes views also as class-based views.